Hello and welcome to LocalLink Hub's podcast, a show with local impact for global change. For those who don't know, LocalLink Hub is the localization and partnership initiative for Terre. LocalLink Hub is also a global online platform that provides free e-learning and capacity development resources for local and national actors. We support our local partners to become better prepared for future crises. The project is funded by the Somaha Foundation. I'm your host, Enikő Vass, and I'm the Communications and Content Manager for LocalLink Hub. And thank you for listening to today's episode. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. On LocalLink Hub podcasts, we discuss topics related to partnership and localization. In today's episode, I will be talking with Mariela Lazi from Terre about the basics of monitoring and evaluation. Mariela Lazi, a seasoned development professional with a PhD in psychology, has over 18 years of experience in project design, monitoring and evaluation, and community engagement. She has worked in several NGOs in Southeastern Europe and currently serves as the Regional Quality and Accountability Advisor for Terre in Europe. Mariela is also an adjunct professor at several universities in Albania and Kosovo, showcasing her commitment to both practice and academia. So hello Mariela, it's really nice to have you today on this podcast.
Hello, nice to be here.
When I joined TDH 2 years ago and I heard for the first time the word meal, I thought that it's something to be consumed, in a fancy restaurant. But, quickly I realized this is much more than that. And please, can you elaborate to our listeners what MEAL stands for in an NGO setting?
Yeah, it actually have a connection with the meal, but it's very different meaning. The M stands for monitoring, E stands for evaluation, A stands for accountability, and L for learning. And it's the new terminology because the older terminology used in the sector was M&E, monitoring and evaluation. And later somehow it was agreed that inside the role is also accountability, because we do monitoring, we collect data to be accountable to our donors, to our beneficiaries, to our internal decision makers, and to our managers. And we do both monitoring and evaluation for learning purposes, because we want to be always a better version of ourselves. So we want to improve and we want to learn whatever it is to learn from whatever we do. So that's why this new name, it's encompassing also accountability and learning apart from monitoring and evaluation, which was the standard and mostly used, widely used terminology for the position.
So when the localization project started and my colleagues created an assessment of our local partners, and to my surprise, we found that TDH's partners, 70%, have a monitoring and evaluation team. What's your experience? Do local NGOs really have a person dedicated to MEAL activities?
MEAL and M&E, it's rather a new need or a new area of expertise, an area of work, but it's not a very new area of work in that sense. Most of the cases, especially these very local NGOs, they have been integrating a lot of M&E functions inside the project coordination people. It has not been a separate unit, but all the monitoring tasks or evaluating tasks has been incorporated inside the project coordinator or project management team. But however, in the recent years, the entire NGO arena kind of agreed that we need much more unbiased, because one of the reasons why we need a unit which is apart from the project implementation team, it's also for biases purposes, because we don't want the same people that are implementing a project or initiative to be also evaluating or assessing the impact of the intervention by itself, because it will be a bit of a biases issues, let's say.
For sure. We are from people.
Yeah, we are, and we are a bit more, not so very skeptical when we are analyzing ourselves. So we need a more external eye to whatever is being done, also to hold ourselves accountable sometimes. Of course, this is there are some people or some organizations that have high level of internal accountability and holding themselves accountable for the achievements, but most of the cases it's better to be an external entity or unit to the organization. So that's why in the recent year more and more donors are kind of prompting the organizations to establish the M&E unit within the entity themselves, not kind of including all the M&E and MEAL tasks inside the project management or project coordination tasks. And for NGOs, international NGOs, as Terre and many others, this has been a very long-standing requirement. So we have been working with strengthening this department in TDH for a very long time already. However, and we are working in very different regions of the world, so there are counterparts of my position in many different areas of the world, and somehow they all share the same idea that unfortunately local organizations, even if they do have the unit, the capacities, the understanding and the scope of work is not very clear, and sometimes they need a bit of capacity strengthening, especially because most of the professionals in the field are coming from organization or an area when M&E was not separated by the project management and implementation team. So it's still a bit of a struggle to really make sure that the function is understood properly and it is kind of separated from the program implementation team.
So how do you characterize your collaboration with these local organizations? What are the main challenges you encounter in your day-to-day work?
Yeah, one of the things that I was mentioning even before is the fact that even if the structure exists, there is a need for a very strong capacity building. And not only theoretically, but also in a practical way. Somehow, I think that after a while in this sector, we all agree that most of our projects are a bit theoretical, are ambitious, and sometimes they lack practical steps on how to become a reality. We have very good and broad ambitions, like we want to change the life of the children in the street situation or affected by migration or by war, like the Ukrainian children that we are working a lot in the recent years. But how to exactly do that and how to really understand that we are having an impact, what are the indicators to show that we are actually changing the realities, or what are the measurements we have to put in place, and what are the exact steps that we have to put in place in order to do that, that is not very clear. And that's why the practical capacities of a good M&E or MEAL person came very handy. Because the more concrete and the more operational the plan is, the easier it is to be measured, to be monitored, and to be objective in what you are assessing or what you are evaluating. What is an M&E, a strong M&E person, or a very experienced or a professional M&E person, what is bringing to the table? It's really kind of helping the theoretical concepts to be much more concrete, to be measurable, to be smart, to be achievable, to be timely bounded, and all these the things that are in alignment with what we can do during a lifetime of a project. And the better we do this, There is an expression in M&E or in the theoretical background of the monitoring, evaluation, accountability and learning arena that says if we fail to plan, we plan to fail. So the planning or the design or how we really design our path, what we are going to do, what are the milestones, what we are needing to achieve in a certain amount of time, and how we are going to measure it, which is a big part of the M&E work. If we are not doing it properly at the beginning, then we will go and have a very ambiguous path, and we will not make sure that we are going in the right direction. We will have a lot of coordination issues, so we are really planning to fail, as they are saying. Yes. This is a bit of harsh terminology, but sometimes it's true if we really do not focus a lot on understanding what we are. There is another expression that is around in the NGO world that you will never listen or hear an NGO worker saying that my project is going as it was planned, because there is always something happening. There is always a postponement or delay or something happening. So the fact that the implementation, the NGO sector is so unpredictable, imagine then how difficult it will be to measure a project or to implement a project that has not clear goals, that has not clear pathways, and then has a lot of contextual changes during the implementation period. So, and when you go at the end, when we have the final evaluation, then you are going to kind of agree on the worth of the entire intervention. You don't know what you are measuring. You don't know what were the first initial ambitions. What have you done? What was supposed to be done? What was sometimes even the commitment that you took with the donor? So that's it's becoming a bit of a nightmare for an evaluator to kind of agree on the project impact and worth. Yeah. So that's why a MEAL person and should be from the beginning, from the start, and the MEAL capacities are very important in an NGO. During the entire project implementation lifetime, during the entire life of the NGO itself, because it is one of the worst and most difficult things in our line of work. It's actually to articulate the impact of what you have done, because sometimes it's very subjective, the change, sometimes it's very subtle, it's very difficult to be visible, and it's because it's very subjective. Two people can have different opinions on the same change and on the same impact. Mm-hmm. So that's why we are kind of taking a lot of rigorous measurements from academia, from universities, from research, to make sure that when we say that yes, this project was successful because this indicator or this target were reached, the statements are strong from a theoretical point of view, the percentages are there, so we are really taking a lot of the academia and be used during the NGO sector work to make sure that what we are saying is strong enough and significant enough in terms of findings and achievements of the implementation.
Yeah, I understand the goodwill of a humanitarian worker is not enough for a project to be successful.
The goodwill, and we all believe that the goodwill is always there, but unfortunately, for a very long time, big NGOs, like donor NGOs, had these question marks. So there are two question marks that actually MEAL helps to solve is, are we doing the right thing? And are we doing the right thing in the right way? So they were really having this question mark about the money they were spending. Are we really having a real impact? Or it's just a wishful thinking from the people that are actually implementing those projects that they are saying, yeah, we are changing the world or changing the realities of the people we are trying to help. So it was not enough for them, just the wishful, that it might not always be wishful, or it might be a lot of change there, but it's not, let's say, evidence-based, and we are always talking about these evidence-based statements more and more in the recent period just because of that. And we are also talking more and more about speaking with the voice of beneficiaries and not with the voice of project staff or the voice of helpers, of NGO workers.
So you already mentioned a lot of good practices and how the sector is changing, but what other good practices do you see when it comes to local organizations?
There is an increased hunger, if we can say, for capacity development. So that's a very good thing. And there is the fact that most of the organizations you were mentioning kind of agreed to create this unit, and they want also to build their capacities, is a very strong and good practice. What I really think that it should be done more in the local NGOs as they are today is to give a bit more of independence and decision-making power, or to kind of listen to the professionals that are in those units. Because sometimes what is the most difficult task of an MNE, it's to voice things that are going wrong when the implementers are their bosses. So it's a bit of a tricky situation, and you really need a powerful voice in order to be able to say, because nobody wants to go in an evaluation at the end of the project and understand that the project was not going in the right direction or things were not done properly. So that's why you need very strong monitoring practices, so you can highlight issues and you can take the management decision to do the course correction, the needed course corrections, to really make sure that you are achieving the goal. So basically the function is not working properly if they are not able to voice their concerns. So that's why the unit should be very much independent, very much professional, because we don't even want MEAL people to kind of hijack the entire process just because they are thinking that it's not working very well. It's a very important unit, and should be a very strong and very capable unit to really make sure that when something is not right, they are able to behave as watchdogs and really highlight the things that need to be changed in a timely manner. So that's one of the best practices that I would really encourage every small local NGO to kind of focus on in the future.
It's really interesting. As a final advice, and to finish our podcast, what is the one advice you would give to an NGO about your area of expertise?
It's more and more important. It's very much a need for us to be accountable, because whatever we do, at the end of the day, we need to be accountable to whoever is giving us the money, being them internal management teams or external like donors. But we also have to be accountable to the beneficiaries that entrusted us with their time, with their resources sometimes, with their willingness to participate, and with their desire to improve whatever is the realities and the situations they are in. So we need to really make sure that we are collecting the right information, the right data, we're asking the right questions. From the right question, we are understanding the right information, and we are using this information to make the right decisions for them and to make the right work and impactful this implementation as they deserve. Everybody deserves to be. That's a very important advice. So please strengthen your MEAL structures, your MEAL units or people. Sometimes it's only one person, but it's and give them the opportunity to be fair with what they are doing and to behave. Don't shut the voices of the MEALs, because it's totally counterproductive for their function.
So thank you very much, and hope to see you on our next episodes, perhaps on some other professional MEAL-related discussion. I'm Enikő Vass, and you've been listening to a LocalLink Hub podcast. We had help from Judit Németh-Almási. Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you for listening, and thank you to Mariela Lazi for joining me today on this LocalLink Hub podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want to learn more about Terre des Hommes initiative, please visit our website locallink.childhub.org. If you have any comments on the episode or want to share your thoughts, contact us via social media on Facebook or LinkedIn, or email us on locallink@childhub.org. Thank you and see you on our next episode.